We've all heard so much about the AI revolution that it's pretty much meaningless. And it was, to me, at least until now. In this video, I'm sharing with you how in a weekend my belief system was shattered, leaving me speechless and stunned. What I watched happen on a Discord server this weekend might be the most significant thing I've seen in gaming ever. And it has nothing to do with a shiny new ship, Star Citizen's 4.7 patch, or a new exciting game launch. No, this has to do with technology I had no idea was possible today and what that means to the gaming industry, Star Citizen, and every other game that's in development. For context, I play on a Star Wars Galaxies emulator called Infinity. For those of you who don't know what that means, Galaxies was an MMO that launched in 2003, got killed by the greed of its own publisher in 2011, but the community refused to let it die. They obsessively reverse-engineered the server code and rebuilt the game from scratch. Infinity is one of those community-run servers, maintained entirely by volunteers who do this in their spare time because they still love the game and refuse to let it go. All of the devs work on this as a hobby and have limited time, so they build an AI botnet to help speed up the development work. Multiple AI agents running on the back end, communicating with each other, monitoring the server, writing code, and this is where it gets wild, speaking to each other and to the players using the personality of Star Wars characters. If you're about to click away because you picture some novelty chatbot spitting out Yoda quotes, that's not it at all. If you've heard of vibe coding, take it a step further. Think autonomous vibe coding, where the AI bots are fixing the game in real time. I reported a bug myself. The tutorial wasn't granting a speeder when you started on the server. The AI named HK Infinity logged it, identified that the speeder grant was likely a consequence of a prior tutorial step not triggering, and forwarded the details to the relevant AI bot for investigation. It was doing triage. Actual bug triage, the kind of work that at a studio like CIG would involve a QA team, a Jira ticketing system, and a turnaround measured in days. If that's your thing, CIG is hiring for that exact role in the Manchester studio. Triaging bug reports? Okay, well, that's not that hard, I guess. Still cool though, but it gets way, way better. A player reported on Discord that the in-game chat to Discord integration was crashing. Within 3 minutes, seriously, just look at the timestamps here, the AI identified the root cause. A buffer sizing bug in the network protocol code was causing the problem. Total nerd shit. Unicode emoji characters in code is 4 bytes, but the buffer was only allocating 2 bytes per character. That means one emoji in chat made the chat integration crash. The AI found it, compared the code, fixed the allocation to use actual encoded length, and queued it for deployment. All of that took just 3 minutes. A bug that would have taken a human developer hours to trace through the code base, assuming they even knew where to look. And the AI diagnosed it, patched it, and had it ready to push before most people in the Discord had noticed or finished reading the crash report. Wow, okay, now that's something. At first it had my curiosity, but now it had my attention. Then a player reported that the bosses in the geocaves were dropping Jedi lightsaber crystals at premium quality instead of flawless like they should have. The AI found the root cause, specifically the new loot path was using a capped mob level of 300 instead of the actual boss combat level of 350 and above, pushed a fix, and noted it would go to the test server for validation. In just 5 minutes, the AI bot demonstrated understanding game system logic, traced a calculation through a loot table, identified where the code merge introduced the discrepancy, and wrote a fix that addresses the root cause instead of just masking the symptom or reporting the issue to another developer. That's insane. I've even been told it can log into the game to playtest and validate fixes. That gives a whole new meaning to non-player character. And then, and this is the part that made the hair on my arms stand up, the AI ran into a database connectivity issue on the test server. MySQL wasn't responding. Logins were failing because the server couldn't validate credentials. So the AI started troubleshooting its own infrastructure. It checked the Docker container, identified transient database errors, disabled an API that was causing cascading failures, and reported its findings back to the team with a recommendation for what a human needed to check next. The AI hit a wall it couldn't solve autonomously, and it knew it, documented what it had tried, and handed it off. That's the workflow of a DevOps engineer. In a single weekend, the AI had identified and fixed 39 player-identified bugs and regression cluster issues. I sat there and realized that these AI bots are basically a small development studio of their own, with multiple disciplines covered at a senior level. If you told me it was possible conceptually, I'd have been skeptical of how it works in deployment. Seeing firsthand that it actually works, and it works well, is absolutely wild. Look guys, I'm an operations analyst. What I do professionally, pattern recognition, diagnostics, root cause analysis, remediation, is exactly what I just watched an AI do on a volunteer-run emulator for a 22-year-old Star Wars game, and it did it faster than any human ever could have. I want to talk about what this means for gaming because I think the implications are staggering, and I don't think most people have any idea this is possible today. Quick shout out to Pimax for sponsoring this video. Since AI is apparently coming for my job, I might as well watch it happen in fully immersive VR. Pimax is running a promotion right now using the code Katarn. It includes free return protection and an extended 12-month warranty, so you can try the headset risk-free for 2 weeks. If there's a problem or you change your mind, you can return it with no questions asked. And when you keep it, you'll get that extra warranty coverage for long-term peace of mind. You really have nothing to lose. I'll have the details and the link in the description if you wanted to check it out. Thanks to Pimax, and let's get back to the video. This wasn't built by a funded studio with an AI research division and a $100 million budget. This was built by a small team of volunteers, one of whom set up the botnet because it's what he does professionally, and he applied those skills to a game he loves. The server owner handles the sequel infrastructure. The lead developer actually worked on the original live game and now donates his time to the emulator. These are talented people, but they're a handful of individuals running this out of passion, not profit. And they have AI agents doing work that would require a dedicated engineering team at any commercial studio. It's not science fiction anymore. This type of deployment is the real-world capabilities of advanced agentic AI. Now think about what a studio with CIG's resources could do with this kind of tooling. Star Citizen's bug reports are legendary in volume. If there's one meme about Star Citizen other than the release date, it's the absolute massive number of bugs that exist in one of the most complex game codes ever made. The issue council is a mountain of player-submitted reports that have to be triaged, reproduced, categorized, and assigned to developers. That pipeline is one of the biggest bottlenecks in the game's development. Bugs that players report in one patch show up again 2 patches later because the volume overwhelms the process. Imagine AI agents monitoring the live servers in real time, catching crashes as they happen, tracing root causes through the codebase, and either fixing them autonomously or generating detailed diagnostic reports that a human developer can act on immediately. That buffer overflow fix I watched happen in 3 minutes on SWG Infinity. That kind of bug in Star Citizen might sit in the issue council for weeks before it gets triaged, reproduced, and assigned, let alone actually fixed and published to live servers. And that's not to say CIG's developers are slow, but it's the reality of what they're dealing with. This technology could fundamentally change how fast games improve after launch. Hell, it could improve how fast bugs get caught before they even reach live servers. If there's one thing I hear consistently, it's this game is incredible when it works, and nothing sums up the Star Citizen experience better. Now here's the honest take, and it's probably going to be spicy. I would bet most gamers don't care about the developer jobs behind the games they play. They care about the game working, they care about having fun. If an AI fixes the bug that's been in the code base and annoyed the hell out of players since 2017, I'd bet you're not going to ask who found and fixed it. You're not going to check whether a human or a machine traced the root cause, because you don't really care. You're going to be glad your cargo run wasn't ruined, and you're going to log in tomorrow and play again. And if that same AI tooling means the next patch ships with half the bugs the last one had, players are going to celebrate it regardless of what it means for the QA team that used to do that work manually. That's uncomfortable to say. I know it is. But I think it's the truth. If you're paying attention, the industry already had this conversation, and it went about as well as you'd expect. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 won Game of the Year, swept 9 trophies at the Game Awards, the most in the show's history, and then the whole thing blew up when it came out that the studio used generative AI for placeholder textures during development. The Indie Game Awards stripped them of their wins. The director had gone on record saying nothing in the game would come from AI, while the producer had already admitted in an interview months earlier that they used some AI but not much. The textures were placeholders that accidentally shipped and got patched within days, but it didn't matter. The damage was done, the discourse was nuclear, and Sandfall had to pledge that everything going forward would be made by humans. Game of the Year. And the community almost turned on it over a handful of textures that were never supposed to be in the final build. That's the temperature right now. And I think a lot of that reaction is performative. It's a loud vocal minority that is anti-anything AI without thought or reason. Some of it is legitimate concern from people whose livelihoods are at risk, and I have empathy for that because I'm eventually going to be one of those people. What I watched on that Discord server is my job being done by a machine. And I'm not going to pretend that doesn't absolutely make the AI conversation real for me in a way that Elon Musk or Sam Altman talking on a stage ever could. But watching a community almost disown the best game of the year over placeholder art that got patched in 5 days, while ignoring what AI could do to make every game they play better, that disconnect tells you everything about where the conversation is right now versus where it needs to be. There's also this idea that everything AI is slop. That's clearly not the case from the examples I've shown. We've seen terrible AI videos and generative AI art for years that made people miss what's really going on in the background, like these agents that are extremely capable when properly deployed. I fear that much like the computer and internet revolution of the late 90s, not being able to adapt to this new world will hurt a lot of people. This is a tool that can be used for good or for awesome, to quote Strongbad. The studios that adopt this tooling early are going to ship better games faster. The ones that resist it out of fear or principle are going to fall behind. That's a prediction, not a moral judgment, and it's based on watching a volunteer team with no budget deploy AI agents that outperform the QA pipeline of studios with hundreds of millions of dollars. The gap between what's possible and what's being done in commercial game development right now is enormous, and it's going to close fast. I want to be clear about something, because I can already see the comments forming. I'm not saying AI should replace developers. The bot on SWG Infinity hit a database problem it couldn't solve, and it knew to hand it off to a human. The AI is a tool, an extraordinary, fast, relentless tool that doesn't sleep and doesn't get overwhelmed by volume, but a tool that still needs people who understand the game, the vision, and the decisions that can't be reduced to pattern matching. The developers on SWG Infinity are still the ones making the creative choices, designing the quests, deciding what the game should be. The AI handles the maintenance, the diagnostics, the tedious hunt through millions of lines of code for the one allocation error that's crashing the server. That division of labor is where the future lives, and it's a future where developers get to spend more time building and less time firefighting. And if that capability scales, and everything I've seen in the last 2 years tells me it will, then the games we're playing 5 years from now are going to be built, maintained, and improved in ways that would be unrecognizable to anyone working in the industry today. Whether that excites you or terrifies you probably depends on what you do for a living. Speaking for myself, it's both. We live in both the best and worst of times, to quote the Dickens. I'm genuinely curious where you land on this. Are you the person who wants AI out of game development entirely? Are you the one who just wants fewer bugs and doesn't care how they get there? Or are you sitting where I am, somewhere in the middle, impressed and unsettled at the same time? Get in the comments. This one I especially want to hear your thoughts on. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.